Good evening, everyone. There is a good many of you who are already here, and we're still expecting even more. This is a very popular session, and I can understand why. I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself. I'm pacing myself because I want to give more time for students to come in. I'd like for us to maybe get started in about 2 or 3 minutes, so I'm speaking a little bit more slowly. My name is Dr. Anne Marie Russell. I am your Associate Dean at the Honors College. I'm the Associate Dean for Student Recruitment, Inclusion, and Success, and I oversee events and programming, among other things, and this is one of the events that we oversee. So I'm going to give us about 1 more minute. There are lots of folks still streaming in, and then I'm going to go ahead and get this started. Okay, it looks like the streaming is starting to slow down a bit. So I'm going to go ahead. So most of you have already heard me introduce myself. I am Dr. Anne Marie Russell. I'm an Associate Dean, and I'm here to host this meeting and to welcome our guest speaker, Justin Dowd from Housing from Res Life. Justin, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Russell. My name is Justin. I am the Administration and Customer Service Manager in the Residential Life Assignments Office. We're the folks that manage and run the processes for room selection. And what I'm going to spend a lot of time talking with you all about is what you're going to do to secure your housing for fall semester. Thank you, Justin. I'm glad I had you introduce yourself because your title's a mouthful, like mine.
So I'm here to represent the CHC perspective and CHC policy. And what is important for you all to know for the purposes of this session is that in order to be eligible, for any student to be eligible for housing within the Commonwealth Honors College residential community, you must be a student in good standing with the Honors College. So you must have a GPA of 3.4 or greater for your overall GPA. Now, if you had a hard time last semester and you got below a 3.4, so long as your overall GPA wasn't brought below a 3.4, you should still be eligible. Those of you who are in good standing should know. Those of you who are not in good standing should also have received notifications by this point. Unfortunately, this is not a point of negotiation. We have far more demand for housing than there are beds available. And we have far more students who are in good standing that are looking for those beds, again, than we have beds available. So unfortunately, it's not a negotiable rule. You must be in good standing in order to be eligible for CHCRC housing. And with that, I'm going to pass the mic on to Justin to get us started.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I am going to hopefully share my screen. So we're going to talk about fall 2023 online room selection options. And we're going to focus a little bit on talking about what that means for students who are interested in living in the Commonwealth Honors College residential community. We're going to talk about just generally securing housing. And we're also going to cover a lot of common questions. With that in mind, I do want to ask folks, if you can, or to please hold any questions that you might have. There is going to be time at the end for you to ask questions, and we'll definitely be taking and answering as many questions as we can. But definitely, I think that a lot of questions are going to be answered by the presentation itself. And so I just want to give folks the opportunity to get that information first. But again, if there's questions that you maybe don't see that don't get answered for you as part of the presentation, definitely there will be time for you to ask at the end. So let's get started. So initially, who is actually eligible to participate in our general room selection processes? That is currently enrolled students that are living on campus right now, and students who lived on campus and are currently away on abroad and are coming back to campus in the spring. Now, this criteria is true for both honor students and just general students. And so if you have a friend who is a member of the Commonwealth Honors College in good standing that is currently in an abroad program returning in the fall, then it's pretty likely that you're going to be able to try to group form with that person and use all the same processes as another on-campus student. And so just something to kind of keep in mind there. Now, there's a very, 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 very important step that every student absolutely needs to take in order to secure on-campus housing. You can do that right now, and that is requesting an appointment. There's 3 steps that you need to take to request your own appointment. All of these steps are done in Spire, and so I would even suggest, I'm going to guess that since we're all in a Zoom meeting right now, you all have access to either a computer or your phone and can get yourself onto Spire. I would suggest taking a few minutes right now as I'm talking to go into Spire and just 100% confirm that you've requested your appointment. Even if you're on the fence, if you're not sure that you want to live on campus, but you're still thinking about it, make sure to log yourself in, take these steps. There's no penalty if you request an appointment and then you ultimately don't use it. But there's a pretty significant penalty if you don't request your appointment before the deadline, which is that you won't be eligible for the process and you likely won't be able to secure housing on campus. So the first step that you need to take to secure your housing in Spire, click that big housing button. And then on the next page in the upper left corner, you should see an option that says occupancy license. Go to that occupancy license, make sure to read through it. You don't need to do this right now, but just make sure that you skim it and make sure that you actually sign and confirm the occupancy license. That is a requirement for you to move on to the next step. After you have completed that step, the next step is to complete the housing profile. That's going to be in that same section in the upper left-hand corner. And many of you have probably already submitted this as new students because submitting the housing profile is something every student has to do to even apply as a freshman. Once you go there, take a look at those questions. It should be some very basic questions about do you stay up late? Do you go to bed early? How do you feel about sharing things with your roommate? Make sure that those answers haven't changed and just hit save and confirm. Once you've done that, you've just got one final step that you need to take, which is to actually request your appointment. And if you look in the upper left-hand corner again, you will see a section that says Room Selection Home. Go to the Room Selection homepage, and as long as you've signed the occupancy license and you have submitted your housing profile, and you're one of those groups of students that I mentioned, you're either living on campus right now, or you're currently on an abroad program coming back in the fall, you will see that there's a button that says Request a New Appointment. Click that button, scroll to the bottom of that page. You're going to see that there's a little radial button right next to where it says Fall 2023 Room Selection. Click that radial button and then click the button at the bottom. I believe it says Submit or Confirm. We're going to get more into what we are as a housing office is going to do to make sure that folks get the right appointments. But every person is just going to request the fall 2023 room selection appointment. And then our office will give students appointments based on what they are eligible for. Now, I know Dr. Russell mentioned that at the beginning that students that are in good standing will be eligible. We will get a list of those students from the Commonwealth Honors College. Any student that is on that list and who requests an appointment will receive an appointment to select spaces in the Commonwealth Honors College. So, speaking of the appointments, what might you potentially receive? There are 4 possible appointments that students can receive as part of the fall room selection process. First, we're going to talk about the processes that are generally available to students. Any student that is going to be considered either a freshman or a sophomore will receive an appointment for the freshman-sophomore 2023 room selection process. How do we determine who is a freshman, who is a sophomore? Any student projected to be a sophomore at the end of this semester, at the end of spring 2023, will be considered a sophomore. Also, any student who is admitted or was admitted fall 2022 or spring 2023 as a freshman regardless of what their academic standing is for the fall, will also be considered a sophomore. So for some clarification there, if you're someone who brought in some AP credits as a freshman, and you're actually by credits going to be a junior for fall, if you were admitted this academic year, you will be considered a sophomore within the process, because really that's the academic class pool that you came in with. We want you to be able to participate in the same way that your peers are participating as well. In that fall selection process is going to be enough shared room spaces for all students with an appointment to be able to select a space. Most of those spaces are going to be shared rooms across campus. That includes design doubles, expanded housing, economy triples, design triples. We actually have some quads on campus. We have a quint on campus. Those types of spaces will be the options that are available for students to select from. There also will be a limited number of single rooms in the non-CHC portion of our campus. Those will be specifically located in Sylvan, because where we have suites that are available, we don't want to break up the suite so that juniors are seeing, 2 of the rooms in a suite and sophomores are seeing the rest of the spaces. Entire suites will go into the process, if that hopefully makes a little bit of sense. For juniors and seniors, anyone that is not falling into that freshman, sophomore pool will be considered juniors and seniors. And the spaces that they will see, again, in the general process, are north apartment spaces, single rooms, and any shared room spaces that were not held and set aside for freshmen and sophomore students. It is also worth noting that we do have to be realistic. We are not able to guarantee that every junior or senior is able to select a space. However, I will say that we're hopeful that most students will be able to. And we'll talk a little bit about how that's going to work as we kind of get further into this presentation. Now, specifically for honor students, their process is broken out a little bit differently. Sophomores are prioritized for suite style spaces, while juniors and seniors get priority consideration for the apartment spaces in the Commonwealth Honors College. Within the suites and the apartments, there are double and single rooms. So unlike where we're talking about general campus, where sophomores will see a limited number of singles, just specifically in Sylvan, any single rooms in suite style housing in CHCRC will be available for sophomores to be able to select. The same goes for the apartment spaces. So there will be singles and double rooms in the apartments. Juniors and seniors will absolutely be able to select from both of those. I want to make sure that that's clear so that folks are aware. There are no kind of what we call traditional style residence hall spaces in any of our multi-year options in CHCRC. All of the spaces are either suites or apartments. So I just want folks to be aware of that, because that is going to be an important factor for you all to be considering while you're making your decisions. Now, I know that not everybody looks at text and can remember things, so I thought I would put just a quick grid together that might show folks a little bit of context. And this also gives me an option to talk, or an opportunity to talk a little bit about something else that's part of all of these processes. After every student that has an appointment for these processes has an opportunity to select, any remaining spaces are going to be made available to students that maybe didn't have the opportunity to select them. So speaking for CHCRC, on April 6th, any spaces that are left over in suites will be added to the junior-senior CHC process, and sophomores will also be given an appointment for that junior-senior process as well. This is the time where if you were hoping to try to form a roommate group with a junior and you're a sophomore, that's when you'd be able to form that group with that person, because at that point, you now have the same appointment. Also, if you're, say, a sophomore who is really hoping to live in an apartment, When that shift happens, you will also be able to see any remaining apartments. The same is true for juniors and seniors. Any unselected suite spaces will also be available for juniors and seniors to select at that point. The same is going to be true for our general spaces that we're setting aside for sophomores. I am 100% sure that there are going to be sophomore spaces that are not selected by the time that we get to the end of the freshman sophomore selection process. Any unselected spaces will be made available in the junior senior process, and any students that are sophomores will also get an appointment to that junior senior process as well. Again, so that you can group form with juniors or seniors if that's what you're interested in doing, or if there's a specific room type that you're hoping to get and maybe that option wasn't available. Now, we're going to talk a little bit more about this, but I cannot stress enough, if you plan to live on campus, absolutely select anything, a space at the beginning of your appointment time. There are absolutely ways for you to change your assignment, and I want to be realistic. While there may be a handful of new spaces that open up because someone picked something and then canceled their assignment a couple of days later because they maybe didn't mean to do something or whatever that might be, the vast majority of options are going to be diminishing as we go throughout the process. We don't hold spaces back to then make available in the middle of the process or at the end of the process. Everything is available up front. And for the most part, those spaces are going to be selected as we get later and later into the process. So make sure that you are selecting something when your appointment begins. It will definitely give you something on campus, and it doesn't mean you can't keep looking. It just means you've secured something on campus. Now, there's another group that I do want to talk about, or another pool of options, which are defined residential communities. Defined residential communities are identity-based groups where students live together, and there is some kind of programmatic element that students can experience as part of that. There aren't any of those located in CHCRC, but there are 5 defined residential communities located across campus, and I've listed them out here. There's the Asian American community, which is located in Northeast. There's the disability defined residential community located in Central. El Barrio is a Latinx community located in Southwest. Harambe is the African American community. And I am now noticing that one of them has been left off of my presentation. I am so sorry. Spectrum is also available. Spectrum is going to be located in Central. Spectrum is our LGBTQIA plus community. And so that is absolutely available. And I do want to stress, today's March 2nd, the application closes tomorrow at 5 o'clock. So if you're interested in joining one of these defined residential communities, absolutely go to our website, umass.edu/living, find the information about defined residential communities. You've got until tomorrow to apply. If it's something that you're interested in, get your name in there as soon as you can. Now, let's really talk about timeline. Now, I know that all of you just all joined me and requested your appointments with me as I talked you through it. But for anybody that maybe came in a little bit late, or maybe for someone who was watching this on their phone and maybe wasn't able to jump back and forth, you have until March 23rd at 11:59 to request your appointment. I can't say this enough. I'm going to say it over and over again. Request your appointment by March 23rd. We are not able to give students who miss this appointment request deadline an appointment or late appointment. We are going to receive more appointment requests than we will have spaces on our campus. Now, I don't know that that means that every single one of those students is going to select something, but if a student has requested an appointment on time, it's not fair for us to be able to give someone who missed that deadline a possible ability to get something ahead of someone who did everything on time. And so just request your appointment by March 23rd. We've already sent one email out to students that has a lot of information. It's a comprehensive email. I wish I could find a way to make that shorter, but I haven't yet figured out a good way to distill that information down into just a few words. You will also, students that have not requested an appointment are going to get a reminder over spring break, and they'll get another reminder right before the deadline. We are only sending that reminder to students who have not taken an action. If you get it and you think you've done something, you probably haven't. make sure to give our office a call, check in with us, send us an email so that we can look at your records and we can talk you through what steps you need to complete. But it's absolutely critically important that you request your appointment by March 23rd. All of the appointments will post on March 28th. Once those appointments post, you're going to be able to see three things or do three things. One, you'll be able to see the exact date and time that you can select an appointment or select an assignment. And for some of you, many of you, especially students who are members of the Commonwealth Honors College in good standing, you are going to see that you have multiple appointments. And so make a note of that there's going to be one appointment for you to see the spaces in the Commonwealth Honors College residential community. There's also going to be an appointment for you to see spaces in just the general process, depending on which you're eligible for as a sophomore or a junior or senior. And selection itself is going to take place from March 29th through April 7th. I'm going to stress this one again as well. Select something at the beginning of your appointment time if you are sure you want to live on campus. If you're thinking about it, if you haven't decided if you want to live on campus, I can understand why you might want to wait. But I would really encourage you to, if you are sure that you are living on campus, pick something. There will be ways for students to change their assignments. So we've already talked through a little bit of this. And you can see I've said this a whole bunch. I've now put this on the screen like 6 different times. Every student has to request their own appointment. This is something we run into every year, no matter how many times I present to however many groups of students that I present to. There's always at least one student who says, well, my group leader requested an appointment. I didn't think I had to. That is not true. You can't form a roommate group until appointments have posted, and you can only form a roommate group with students who have requested an appointment and have the same appointment that you do. And so if you don't think you've requested your appointment, check in with us, make sure that we help you out, because I don't want that to be the thing that holds you back from being able to live on campus. And again, there's no penalty if you don't ultimately select something. If you request an appointment just to see what's out there, to give yourself a little bit more time to think, I think that's a great idea. There's no harm in requesting an appointment and then deciding that, you know what, you're either going to plan to live off campus or whatever that plan might be, commute from home. Totally fine. I just want to make sure that you all do what you need to do. So I know that we already walked through some of this, but I did want you to at least see some of the panels. This is the room selection eligibility panel. It's another way for you to find your occupancy license and your housing profile. This is a really great tool. If you go here and you see that either of those aren't done, that's an indicator that you have not completed all the necessary steps for requesting your appointment. Then this is the actual request a new appointment button that I mentioned on the room selection homepage. And so a couple of things that I do want to point out on this page, you can see above the request a new appointment button, there is a section that says appointment requests. When you have completed the process, if you go to this page and it doesn't say fall 2023 room selection, you haven't requested an appointment. So make sure that it says fall 2023 room selection in that section. And if you get an email from us that says you haven't done something and you go to that page and that section doesn't say that, then that means that there's something more that you need to do. Underneath that, where it says appointments, when we post student appointments on March 28th around 3:00 in the afternoon, I mention that because we get a lot of phone calls from about 8:30 to about 3:29 from people being like, when are my appointments going to post? Appointments post around 3:00. They won't be visible until then. So just keep that in mind. But when appointments post, you will see the appointments that you have, including the start time, the end time, all the information that you need to know about that process. Worth noting, all appointments end when the process ends, but appointments will be staggered throughout that period of room selection. So not everyone's appointment starts at the same time, but everyone's appointment ends at the same time. We've already talked about this. This is the actual page with the radio button. And again, this is what it looks like when you actually see you've completed the step. There's 2 other ways that you're going to be able to verify for yourself that you've done what you need to do. One, you are going to get an email to your student email account that confirms that you've requested your appointment. And when you actually request the appointment, you are going to get a confirmation page in Spire that basically says, congratulations, you requested your appointment. If you don't get those things, call us. Come into our office. We can look up your record. We can verify what you've done. I would rather have every single student check in with us and verify 100% that they've done what they need to do than to have students miss our deadlines because they thought they did something and they missed it. So please, please, please be sure that you've done what you need to do and check in with us to be sure if you're not confident. Again, everybody got an email last Thursday that outlines what they are eligible for. And when I say everybody, I do mean everybody that's currently eligible for the process. So students that did not get this email, students that are projected to graduate this semester or over the summer. If you're not expected to be a student for the fall, then you won't be eligible to participate in our processes. If you are currently projected to graduate for spring or for the summer, and you actually think that you are going to be here longer, make sure to go into Spire and update your graduation term. You can go right to the registrar's website. They actually have a nice page that talks you through how exactly you can do that. We'll also be sending reminders to students and their parents who haven't taken an action on March 17th. And we'll send another reminder to students again on March 22nd. I really want to stress this. We are only sending this to students who have not requested an appointment. If you get that email, there's something else you need to do. Now, I want to point out that there are online room selection video tutorials. I want to also point out that these are a work in progress. As many of you probably know, Spire had a pretty significant layout look change that happened about halfway through fall semester. We're still working on updating our video tutorials. And so I just want you all to know that the video tutorials that are up right now that you can see, for the most part, the pages themselves are laid out the same, but the pathing might be a little bit different. Everything that I have described is accurate, and we are working on getting those updated as soon as we can. They should be updated fairly soon. So my hope is that by the end of spring break, all of those processes, all of those videos will be updated and good for folks to look at. Now, we get a lot of questions from students about what room selection priority is. Priority is the tool that our office uses to determine the order for how students are selecting, who's going first in the process and who's going from that point forward. There's two important numbers for room selection priority. The first is how many semesters that you have lived on campus, and that's specifically completed. So most students that are going to be a sophomore starting in fall 2023, while this is their second semester on campus, they haven't finished that semester yet. And so what that means is that most sophomores have one semester completed, whereas, a senior might have 5 or 6 semesters completed. Students that have lived on campus longer will select earlier. Now, that means that we just are still looking at those eligibility pieces that I talked about. Are you a freshman or a sophomore? Are you a junior or a senior? Which is going to determine your eligibility and for what processes. But priority is going to determine where in the process your appointment starts. The other number is priority order, and that is a random number. So, for example, all students that have a 1 semester completed, their priority order is of all the students that have 1 semester completed, if every single one of those students was eligible and participated, that is where you would fall in line. Now, an important thing to know is that we calculate priority for every active student, which means that there are students that are not eligible in that pool. It means that there are students that are not living on campus. It means that there are students that aren't planning to participate in the process at all. And so while we do use those numbers, and while you might see a number that's a really big number and feel scary for the priority order, do keep in mind that there are likely students that are ahead of you in that numbering system that may not be planning to participate, which really means that you're going to move yourself forward a little bit. So just to keep that in mind. Also, I just want to name this here because I'm sure that there are students that have disability accommodations that are in this chat. Students that have a disability accommodation for a private or a shared room, I want to stress, we don't use your priority. Your accommodation overrides the priority. Students with a medical accommodation will select earlier in the process to give them the best opportunity to select a space that meets their needs. And so if you're someone that does have a medical accommodation, if you're working with disability services and you've gotten an email from us that says that you have a housing accommodation, your priority really honestly doesn't matter. Your accommodation determines when your appointment starts. So now I've just got a handful of common questions that students often ask us, and I thought I would just kind of go through some of these. The first big one, there's 3 of us that are honor students. Our best friend isn't a member of the Commonwealth Honors College. They're applying. They think they're going to join spring of next year, but they really want to be a part of this process. As Dr. Russell mentioned at the beginning, we are going to have more eligible CHCRC students or eligible students in good standing than we will have spaces in the Commonwealth Honors College. Because of that, we are not able to give students who are not in good standing or students who are not members of the Commonwealth Honors College an appointment for these processes. And so I understand that you may have someone that you really want to live with. If your priority is to live with that person, I would really encourage you to look at our other processes where all of you will be eligible, because this process is only going to be available to students that are in good standing members of CHCRC. Students ask us a lot what selection opportunities means. Selection opportunities is the number of times you can pick or change your assignment. It is not, I take 3 rooms and then decide which of those 3 I want to keep. And so every time that you select a room, if you held an assignment previously, so again, for fall semester, if you pick a room in our fall processes, it does nothing to your spring assignment. But if you select a room in the fall process, and then the next day you go in and select a new room, you will immediately release that original space that you selected. That is now available for someone else to pick. We only give students 3 selection opportunities because we want to make sure that everyone has the ability to pick and change in case they have maybe they see something that's a little bit better. But realistically, we also want to make sure that students are able to everybody's got a few opportunities to be able to select. Again, these are real-time processes. It means that you and a number of other students are all selecting at the same time. It is absolutely possible that if you select out of a room, another student could see that space immediately, select that room, and at that point, that space is now occupied by somebody else. If you select out of a room, go oops, and you have one selection opportunity left, you can go back in and try to get that room. But once you've used up your selection opportunities, you won't be able to change your assignment again within that appointment. That is also true of group membership. If you're a member of a roommate group and either you or someone within the group doesn't have any selection opportunities left, the group leader won't be able to select the group. So make sure that everyone has at least one selection opportunity left before you form that roommate group. Now, are students guaranteed a space on campus? Kind of going back to what I said earlier, there will be enough spaces generally for sophomores to be able to select. And any remaining single rooms, any remaining shared rooms, and any remaining spaces in the North apartments will be available for juniors and seniors. Now, historically, like I said, there are more students who request an appointment than there are spaces on our campus. I don't know how many students are ultimately going to request. I don't know how many students are ultimately going to select or participate. But unfortunately, we are not able to guarantee that every single student is able to secure an assignment. Going back to that piece when I talk about sophomores, as I mentioned, at a certain point, any spaces that are left over at the end of that process are going to be made available to juniors and seniors. As soon as that happens, those juniors and seniors are going to be able to select and take any remaining spaces. What that means is that as a sophomore, if you don't pick at the beginning of your appointment time, there is definitely a chance that when those spaces get moved over, you may not be able to select a space as well. And so again, if you're sure you want to live on campus, make sure to secure something when your appointment starts, even if it's not your first choice. There will be ways for students to make changes to their housing assignments. Now, as I just mentioned, any of those unselected spaces are going to get moved over. And once all those spaces are available, anyone can select into those spaces. Anyone that's got an active appointment will be able to select into those spaces. I do expect that if we don't fill by the end of these processes, I expect that we will be very close to filling. And so definitely make sure that if your priorities live on campus, select something from the options that are available. Now, also for juniors and seniors, I think that there is a possibility that before we get to the point where the spaces in the remaining spaces in that freshman sophomore process are made available, it is possible that the north apartments and single rooms and whatever shared rooms we have may fill. I assure students that there will be additional spaces that get added at the end of the process. I just want to stress that it's not guaranteed that there will be enough for every single student to select something. Now, this is another one. We get a lot of questions from students. I've been working on the phones for most of the day today. I already had about 10 different students call me and say, I'm trying to form my roommate group. Why can't I do it? The only thing that students can do right now is request an appointment. Once appointments have posted and everyone can see their appointment times, that is when you can begin forming a roommate group with someone else who has the same appointment as you. So now you're not able to do it, but by March 28th at 3 p.m., you can absolutely start forming a roommate group. I want to stress something about our roommate groups as well. The person there's two groups of students within a group. There is a group leader. That is the person that's going to be responsible for selecting assignments for everyone within the group. And then there is group members. Group members are giving up their right to select to their group leader, who is responsible, again, for selecting on behalf of everyone. The person who should be your group leader should be the person that's come to our office and asked my staff a million questions. It should be the person that has watched all the video tutorials. It should be the person that has already used online room selection and is feeling really comfortable with it already. And most importantly, the person who is available when their appointment begins. When a roommate group forms, the group leader can select at whatever the earliest appointment time is within the groups. So if myself and Dr. Russell are part of a roommate group and my appointment time starts on April 7th, we'll say April 1st at 2 p.m. and Dr. Russell starts on March 27th at 10 p.m., I can be the group leader and select on March 27th at 10 p.m. for us because we're in a group. If we need to dissolve that group for whatever reason, each of the individual students will go back to their original appointment time. So just keep that in mind. But you want the most knowledgeable person, the most confident person, the person who's talked to us to be your group leader. You definitely want that. That's the person that's likely not going to make a mistake, and they're going to take care of you. Also, if you're getting farther into the process and you haven't gotten an email that says you've received an assignment, you need to check in with your group leader and you need to check in with us. Because if you don't get that email that says you have an assignment and your group leader is saying, no, I picked something, then there's a very good chance that something isn't working right for how the process for that student, and that they should check in with us because maybe the group didn't get formed correctly, it got formed within the wrong process, whatever that might be. We can look into that and give you guidance on what your next steps are, but you got to give us a call. If you don't get that email that says you have an assignment, something hasn't happened and you need to check in with us. So what if I'm not able to select my preferred space? This is a question we get a lot. If you're sure that you want to live on campus, I know I've said this a million times, but I can't help myself. If you're sure you want to live on campus, pick something. You have 3 selection opportunities within each appointment that you have, and you are absolutely able to, if you see a new space that opens up that's preferable, then absolutely you're able to go in there. You're going to select another space. That's completely fine. But I want to make sure that you select something if you're sure you want to live on campus. If you're not sure you want to live on campus, if you're saying, I only want to live on campus if I can get a single on the second floor of Maple, and there are no singles on the second floor of Maple, that's a really important time to have a really hard, thoughtful conversation with yourself about whether you want to live on campus or whether it's time to start looking off campus, especially with the more specific preferences, priorities. It's much harder to meet that demand because there are just fewer of those spaces. And so if you're only willing to live in certain types of housing and those spaces aren't available, then I would encourage you to start using the off-campus housing website. I would encourage you to start really thinking about whether there are other types of housing you would be willing to accept. And realistically, you should be having this conversation with yourself and anyone you want to be in a roommate group with now. Get that plan laid out right now so that you know when your appointment starts what your next steps are. You should know all the way down to, if you're going to be in a roommate group, at what point does our roommate group dissolve and we select as individuals? At what point are we no longer interested in looking at on-campus housing assignments? It should be like, I call it the top 10 list, but it should be like a top 40 list. Go out as far as you feel all the way to, I'm not willing to live on campus, because that's going to be really helpful for you in the moment if that first choice space isn't there. Also, there are going to be ways for students to change their housing assignment. Over the summer, we're going to run a fall selection process or fall change process. I will note that there will not be any spaces in the Commonwealth Honors College residential community in that process. For some context, typically we fill that area. And on top of that, any spaces that do open up are held for new incoming transfer students that are being invited in as part of the Honors College as well. So just to be aware of that. There will be spaces in all of the other areas of campus. Most of those are going to come from students requesting a cancellation of their housing assignment. Here's the big one. What if I miss the appointment request deadline? I think you've gotten the gist of this, so I'm not going to belabor this too much, but my recommendation is don't miss the deadline. Just request the appointment to be sure. But for students who are freshmen or sophomores that request an appointment, but then ultimately don't select a housing assignment, those students will be able to use our fall change process to try and secure on-campus housing. Those appointments will begin after all on-campus students have had an opportunity to move themselves around. And so to be realistic, they may not be people's first choice areas. And I will be very clear, there will not be spaces in CHCRC available for anyone to select on time or otherwise. So just don't miss the deadline. For people that either don't request an appointment or juniors or seniors, the next process available to them is going to be in our unassigned process. And students aren't able to select that until we have actually completed, until we have completed new student assignments, which is why those students are not able to select anything until August. And so again, don't put yourself in that situation. Request the appointment. When your appointment starts, select an option that's there. I really, really want to stress the only students that are guaranteed on-campus housing in any of these later processes are freshmen. Students who are freshmen are required and guaranteed on-campus housing. All other students, we will do everything that we can to offer as many spaces as possible, but we are not able to guarantee anyone who is a sophomore or higher that they will be able to select a space. Now going back to roommate group formation, talking again about how you may have multiple appointments. You may have a friend who has multiple appointments. If you know that you want to live in CHCRC, make sure that you are forming your roommate group in the correct process. In fact, my recommendation, honestly, is I would say form your roommate group in all of the processes that you each have an appointment for. This is going to be really important because say that there's not a suite space that's available in CHCRC and you've decided to use your sophomore appointment to select somewhere else in one of our other residential areas. If the group leader only formed their group in the CHCRC process and then they select in the general fall room selection process, that group doesn't come with you. You're selecting as an individual because that group doesn't exist in that process. Form your roommate group and only within the processes that you and your friends have that appointment for. If you have questions about forming a roommate group, if you need any help with that, come and talk to my staff. We are happy to help you. Once those appointments post, we have computers set up in the office. You can come in. We will step by step you all through every step of the group formation process. And with that, I want to open it up for questions. I'm going to leave this up for just a few minutes so that our email address and our phone number is listed, but then I'm going to stop sharing the screen in just a few moments. If folks who are interested or have questions just want to hit that little raise your hand button, what I can do is I will pick on folks as I'm seeing those questions and let you ask the question, and then we can talk about it. All right, I'm seeing a couple hands go up already. I'm going to guess that this is in the order, but I'm going to have Mary. Mary, why don't you go ahead and unmute yourself and you can ask your question.
Okay. So if I'm in a group and we pick a suite, does the group leader pick like, oh, this person is getting this single within this suite, these two people are in a shared space within the suite, or is that like, does the group dissolve so we each pick our space within the suite? How does that part work?
Great question. You actually did a really great description of exactly how that works initially. The group leader is going to be the person that is placing folks into those spaces. And so when the group leader goes in, they're going to see all of the vacant spaces within the suite or the apartment, whatever it is that you're selecting into. And the group leader is literally going to click a little button next to each person's name, click a little button next to each room, and place those people into the spaces. So the group leader is 100% responsible for the orientation of students within the suite as well. I'm going to actually work from the top down. Sorry, if I miss anybody, please somebody kind of check me on that. I would appreciate it. But I'm going to have Ryan, would you like to unmute yourself?
Hello.
Hi.
So I was just wondering about the availability of economy triples and like expanded housing.
Okay.
I looked at the maps or the floor plans, but I was just unsure if there was more, just because I've heard in the past that more rooms opened up for that kind of thing.
So we're looking to have around the same number of economy triples and expanded housing that we had this fall.
Okay.
And so basically, we're looking at our numbers, and this may change depending on demand. Realistically, we really don't want to have economy triples and expanded housing if we don't need to. We know that we're going to need some, and some spaces are going to be available, but it's really going to be dependent on the appointment requests that we receive to give us a better sense of exactly how much we need to add to ensure that as many students as possible can get on-campus housing. The majority of economy triple spaces, expanded housing spaces are going to be available in the sophomore selection process. So that pool where we're saying there will be enough spaces available for students to select, that's where the majority of economy triples and expanded housing spaces are going to be. There are not any economy triples. There are not any expanded housing spaces in any of our multi-year options in CHCRC. The community is just not really designed to support that. And so there won't be those options there.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's go to Arab. I hope that I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yeah, so thank you. So I had a question. So historically, if I'm looking to live in a suite as a sophomore, is that historically a process that's like quote unquote easy to get into, or is there generally like a lot of people don't get it? Like,
sure.
No.
It really varies year to year, to be honest. Like we've said a couple of times, there's going to be more students eligible for the process than there are spaces. But the reality is that not every student that gets an appointment for the Commonwealth Honors College residential community is ultimately going to want to select a space there. Your best friend might not be a member of the Honors College and you really want to live with them. You're going to look at options where the two of you can live together. Or there's any number of other reasons. The CHCRC, those spaces are more expensive than other areas on campus, and where cost is a factor. Absolutely. For me, when I was a student, you better believe that as much as I love the look of CHCRC, I would have been looking elsewhere to keep that student loan going down a little bit. However, even with that, My experience is that by the end of the process, traditionally, these suite spaces do typically fill. But it's really hard for me to say whether that's going to be before or after we offer those spaces to juniors and seniors.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Why don't we do Grace?
Thank you. Okay, so two things. First, is there a way that I can look at like the floor plans for like honors housing?
Absolutely,
like,
yes.
like,
Yeah. If you go to our website, which is umass.edu/living, and you click on the residence halls tab, you're going to see that under the undergraduate halls option, there's an option for Commonwealth Honors College residential community, and there are floor plans for every residence hall in each residence hall's website. Just so you know, you do need to log in using your net ID and password to get access to that, but it's absolutely available for you, so you can actually see what the layouts are, get a better sense of what those spaces are going to look like.
Got it. Thank you. And then just like one last thing, I know you kind of already answered this, but like historically, are suites typically open after sophomore select housing in the Commonwealth Honors College?
It really varies year by year. We've had some years where the suite spaces fill very quickly. We've had some years where we have some suite spaces that are made available to juniors and seniors. I'm hopeful that there will be some spaces that are made available to juniors and seniors, but it's just really hard for me to predict until we actually see what students are selecting.
Okay, got it. Actually, sorry, just like also really quick, like when you request your appointment, does that have any bearing on your priority number? Like, let's say I requested my appointment the day it opened up.
Absolutely does not. We don't personally think that it's fair to say to a student who has to go to bed at 10 o'clock because they have a 6 a.m. whatever, that they're going to miss out on an opportunity because they're a little bit later than someone else, which is why we use that priority system, which is the number of semesters you've lived on campus and the random number that kind of gives students with the same number of semesters a tiebreaker, essentially.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's do Caitlin.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you okay, yes.
Okay. My question was, if we have a roommate in a suite that we're planning to have that isn't currently in the Honors College, but is planning to join the Honors College, and they won't find out if they're in until later, like after the housing appointments, are we still able to put them in, or does that just not make them eligible?
You won't be able to do that. So unless you are currently a member of the Commonwealth Honors College and you're in good standing, you won't be eligible for this process. Now, if they ultimately get in later, we will have in-semester processes in the fall. And essentially, students that are members of the Honors College will get priority consideration for those spaces. I think one thing to be very realistic about, though, is that our honors students do tend to change their assignment and cancel their assignment at lower rates than other students across campus. And so if there's somebody that's in that space, you might want to talk with them about whether they want to do a swap, whether they want to do an exchange of an assignment. But it's very likely that if they're doing an exchange outside of the Honors College, that they may not be open to that.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Jacqueline. Also, thank you everybody for taking your hand down as your questions are answered. It's making it a lot easier for me to go through. I appreciate that.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
I can, yes.
Okay, perfect. I don't know if this was already touched upon, but my friend today mentioned to me that there were like CHCRC, I think, like rooms in the North apartments.
Yes. Yeah.
And I was wondering, like, do those open up with our, I'm sorry, what do you call it? Like assignment period?
Yeah. So I apologize. I should have brought that up much earlier. So some of you may know this. There are no break housing residence halls in the Commonwealth Honors College residential community. So there are 2 floors in the North apartments. It's North D, 4th and 5th floor, that are set aside as a break housing option for honor students. And those spaces are going to be available in the apartments process. So the process that's available for juniors and seniors. And so if that's something that you're interested in and you're a junior or a senior, you will see those spaces available to you in the room selection process. Yes.
Okay, thank you. And just kind of following up on something interesting that was put in chat, I was wondering if you're in an apartment and it's on all singles, does it like, can it be co-ed? Or
potentially. So there are going to be rooms designated as co-ed initially. And so when you're in your search results, you can actually set one of your criteria of only show me rooms that are designated as co-ed. Now, a co-ed room, the way that works is that the individual rooms themselves within the space. So for example, the vast majority of spaces in the Honors College, Commonwealth Honors College residential community are 2 double rooms. And in that situation, 2 female identifying students can be living in one of those rooms and 2 male identifying students could be living in the other room. And so for any of those rooms that are designated co-ed, that is definitely an option. For folks that are looking for more gender inclusive options where any student of any gender is able to live in a space, we did expand our gender inclusive community in Baker Hall, which is in Central. And we've expanded out some more suite options in Cashin Hall, which is in the Sylvan residential area.
Okay, so like if I was looking to like form a roommate group with someone who's like male and we were going to go into like all singles, we couldn't do that unless it was like specifically co-ed?
Correct. That's right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Yasmin?
Hi, thanks. I had a question. If I'm a sophomore planning on trying to get myself a suite, and I don't have anyone I'm planning to live with right now, then I don't have to join a priority group, right?
You don't need to form a roommate group. When your appointment starts, you'll be able to select from whatever spaces are available. And actually, thank you for bringing this up because this is something I like to mention to students. I really, really encourage folks that if you're not part of a roommate group, please select into already occupied rooms where you can. We have a lot of students that form roommate groups, and sometimes those appointments start later. And it can be really challenging for a roommate pair who are trying to find a space and they're running searches and they're seeing 15 rooms that have one person living in them. Now, I fully understand that we can't solve that for everybody, but where you can actually see in the search results some basic information about the person already in the room. You can look at the answers to their housing profile questions to give you a better sense of who that person might be. You can get a sense of their major, all things like that. And so if you're selecting as an individual, please look at the people that might be living in a space already, see if there's somebody that might be a good fit, select in with another person where you can.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Dylan?
Hi, yes. So my roommates and I are all dual degree students. So we have exceeded the credits of a senior already, but we are juniors in terms of our graduation. Like our projected graduation year is still spring 2024, but we have the credits of seniors currently. And none of us have received any of the emails from ResLife on selecting on-campus housing for this year, presumably because we have the credits of a senior, but Inspire, our projected graduation year, is not until 2024.
Dylan, I'd like you to email me. So send an email to Living at UMass, because I'll want to look into that a little bit more closely. We use automated systems that pull the data that we give. And I'd like to be able to look at your record and we can maybe try to figure out what we can do to get you included in the future. But I'm glad you're here. That means you're getting all the information. So I'm glad that you actually are getting the info. Did you have another question? I'm sorry. I realized I kind of cut you off.
No, you're good. So all of us were able to request appointments in Inspire. We just got no notification of when was the time to do so.
Right. That's okay. So if we ultimately look and see that you are an active student and is eligible to live on campus, so like you said, your graduation term is spring 2024, then you will receive an appointment.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Aditya?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
So in the presentation, you said like CHC students get an additional appointment to select CHC housing. So how does that work?
So it will be 2 separate processes. Essentially, to get really technical, and I'll try not to take too long on this, but to get a little technical, essentially, there's no way for us to show you as an individual every room across campus that just you are eligible for. The way that we do that is by creating appointments that include specific areas. So there will be a specific process that I believe will be called, there will be two. There will be the sophomore selection process, the CHC sophomore selection process, and then the CHC junior senior selection process. Those will include either the sophomore process will just include suite spaces. The junior senior process will just include apartment spaces. And then you would also receive an appointment for either the sophomore general process or the junior senior general process that will include those other options that I've listed. Because there's not really a way for us to individually give you one appointment that just shows you what you're eligible for, we do have to give students multiple appointments for all the different types of housing that might be available to them.
So if we already request an appointment on Spire, we don't need to request an additional appointment for the CHC.
That's right. Yeah, it's more of an umbrella. So anybody that requests an appointment will be given the appointments that they're eligible for. So if you're an honor student in good standing, you will get that honors appointment and you will get that general process appointment as well.
Okay. And should we fill both of those out in case we don't get the CHC?
Well, what I would say is, because you can only ever hold one space on campus, and very likely your honors appointment is going to start earlier because you're competing with a smaller pool of students. So I think that by the time that your CHCRC appointment starts, you'll have a better sense of whether you'll be able to get a space in the honors college to help you make that informed decision for whether you're going to use the appointment in the other process. But to go along, I want to really expand on this. If you select a space in CHCRC and you're not sure about it, and then your general process appointment starts and you select a room there, you are releasing that honor space. You can only ever hold one space on campus.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Jordan?
Hi. So I was wondering, so since the RA is required to have a two-person room to themselves, can 4 people, including an RA, not live together then?
That is correct. So in CHCRC, the RA suites are generally the 2 double room configuration. So that means that the RA gets a double room to themselves, because if you think about it, part of that room that they're using is kind of office space. And so for the RA, they will get the double room. The other room, 2 students can be assigned to that space, absolutely, but there's not a way for a 4th student to be living in an RA suite.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Firdaus?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay, perfect. I was just wondering, are there any double rooms for sophomores in the honors college, or is that only a freshman year type of thing?
There will
like
be
non-suites.
Yeah, there won't. So the only place that what we call traditional style residence hall rooms exist are in the first year options in Sycamore and Oak. All of the options in our multi-year options, Birch, Maple, Birch, Maple, Linden. Oh gosh, why am I missing out on one? You all know what it is, but the multi-year options, yes, they're either apartments or suites.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Ethan?
So just to reiterate, if our first semester on campus was this fall, but we have a bunch of credits such that we are a junior by credit, we'll still be considered for the sophomore housing process and not the junior one, right?
100% correct. That's right. So if you were admitted as a freshman in this academic year, then you are considered a sophomore for our process.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Olivia?
I just have a question about how we can see what process we're eligible for. Like when I look at my SPIRE, it's it just says that I've requested for fall 2023 room selection. But
there's not necessarily a way in SPIRE to see that.
Okay, but if we're an honors college student, in good standing, we can assume that that's the process that we're in for housing?
Essentially, yes. If you've got confirmation that you're currently in good standing, then you will receive an appointment for either the sophomore process or the junior senior process, depending on your academic year. And you are going to be eligible for one of those other processes as well, again, depending on your academic year. And so if you know that you're a sophomore, then, and that you're in good standing, you will get an appointment for the sophomore process of general campus, and you'll get an appointment for the sophomore process that includes all the suites on campus as well for the CHCRC students.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Charles?
Hello, can you hear me okay?
I can.
Great, thank you. Do you think you could quickly repeat the policy of room priority with disability services?
Yeah, sure. Essentially, if you have an accommodation, a housing accommodation through disability services, and you can know that because you'll have already gotten an email from someone in our office saying you have an accommodation and this is what that means. Essentially, your room selection priority doesn't matter anymore. Your accommodation replaces that. Students who have a housing accommodation select at the beginning of the process before students who do not have a housing accommodation. And so their appointments will begin earlier to give them the best opportunity to select whatever space best meets their needs.
Okay, thank you. What is the date for when that accommodation appointment period begins as opposed to the normal appointments?
Well, it's going to be within the same period of time. It's just going to be at the very beginning of the process. So we post appointments on March 28th. And if I recall correctly, room selection is going to start, and I don't need to recall, I have a PowerPoint presentation that has the time in there. I can just double check it. Where'd it go? Yeah, so appointments will start on March 29th. Students with a medical accommodation will start picking on the 29th.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Kat?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, so just two questions about disability services room accommodations. So can students with that accommodation bring others into a suite with them for like a private room accommodation?
As long as they are a member, as long as they're eligible for the process. So as an example, if I have a disability services accommodation for a private room and I really want to live with someone else, say with you, we can form a roommate group. I can try and select into a space together as long as we're both members of the Commonwealth Honors College. If say I'm not a member of the Commonwealth Honors College, then we wouldn't be able to group form and select a CHCRC space.
Okay. Also, I was told that since it's like selecting early, it's in like the junior senior selection process. Would I still be able to get a suite?
So it's a different process for students that have a disability accommodation. It's a very specific question, but there's a chance that there may be some folks that might actually benefit from this information as well. So in the CHCRC processes, there are going to be significantly more single rooms available to sophomores than there will be in the general sophomore process. Like I said, the sophomore general process will really just include a handful of suite spaces in Sylvan. And maybe that area doesn't potentially meet a student's medical need if they need to be closer to UHS, something like that. So in that larger process, a student with a medical accommodation who's a sophomore is also going to get an appointment for the junior senior process so that they have a broader set of single room options to pick from. In the CHC process, there are going to be enough single rooms throughout the process that we should be able to meet that student's need. And so you would only get a CHC sophomore appointment. And if you want to select one of those, it would be within the sophomore, the suite spaces in CHC.
Okay, so for the disability priority appointment, I wouldn't be able to select a suite in the Honors College?
If you're a member of the Commonwealth Honors College, then yes, you would be able to. You would be able to select into a suite. You'd be able to select into a single room in the suite. You'd be able to select into a double room in the suite. You could form a roommate group with 4 other students. And as long as there's still a suite that's available, you can do that. You just wouldn't be able to bring in a non-honor student into those spaces. Yeah.
Okay. And then you mentioned something earlier about an email from Residential Life to people who have disability accommodations. Did you mean one that was sent to everyone or just like the initial?
The initial, that's right.
Okay.
So if you look at that initial email that you got, it should have outlined specifically what that accommodation means for you kind of moving forward. But what I can say is that any student that has an accommodation selects at the beginning of the process to give them the best chance to get what they need.
Awesome. And just to reiterate, I just want to make sure. So like I'm an honor student and my potential suite mates are also honor students.
Yep.
So with my priority room accommodation appointment, I would be able to select a suite for us in the honors college.
Exactly right. If you formed a roommate group, you're very likely going to have the earliest appointment time.
Okay.
And so what that means is that whether you're the group leader or not, they're going to be able to select at your appointment time if you've got that disability accommodation.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much. And that is like, so did you say that there's separate appointments for like regular and honor students?
That's exactly right. So all students that request an appointment, so all sophomores, for example, that request an appointment are going to get that general process. Only the sophomores who are in good standing in CHC will get that CHCRC appointment for suite spaces.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. I did want to touch on, I apologize, I've been trying to keep up with the questions as they've come. I've noticed that there's been a handful of folks that have asked about, can you form a roommate group with a person of a different grade? If you have the same appointment, yes. But as a reminder, juniors and seniors are going to get an appointment specifically for apartments, or for the juniors and seniors are going to get their own set appointments for our general process. Sophomores are going to get appointments for suites in CHC, and sophomores are going to get that kind of general shared room option across the campus. What that means is that until the very end of the process, when all of those remaining spaces are added in together and all students are given the same appointments, it won't be possible for, say, a senior to form a roommate group with a sophomore. Now, a junior and a senior can absolutely form a roommate group as long as they have the same appointment time. Anshul?
Hello.
Hi there.
I just had a few questions as far as like about the suites and about the apartments for juniors.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering, my first question was just like, are there specific like suite options for juniors in the honors college when it opens up?
So unfortunately, really, that's going to be dependent on what sophomores are doing. Essentially, all of the suite spaces are going to be offered to sophomores first. The priority for those spaces is for sophomores. Any unselected suite spaces will be made available at the end of the process. And so if there is some that are available when that flip happens, then absolutely a junior or a senior can select into a suite. But until that flip happens, there won't be suite spaces in the honors college offered to juniors and seniors.
Okay, so if our like appointment opens up at a specific time, then we won't be able to select the suites, but we will be able to select the apartments in the honors college.
As long as there's apartments available, that's absolutely correct. Yep.
Okay, sounds good. And then like in terms of like a rough estimate as to like how many apartments, like is there a reasonable amount, or is it a very like...
Oof, I used to know this number off the top of my head and I don't anymore. If I remember correctly, I think it's about 65% of the spaces in the multi-year buildings are suites, and the remaining options are apartments.
Okay, sounds good. And like in terms of like the process for like North Apartments for the honors students that are juniors and seniors, is there some specific like housing there that they can choose from?
There will be, yeah. So there's going to be 2 floors. The 4th and 5th floor of North D will be available right in the CHC junior senior apartment process.
Okay. And around like how many would there be like options?
I think if I remember correctly, there's something like 6 or 7 apartments per floor if I'm doing my math right. And so all of those spaces on those 2 floors will be available for juniors and seniors to pick. Juniors and seniors in CHC.
It's around 14 spaces.
14 apartments. There's 4 rooms per apartment. So.
Okay. Sounds good. And then this, like the North Apartments process would be separate from the CHCRC process. So if we would have, it would be another roommate group that we would form if we want to just focus.
Not necessarily. So those two floors, the 4th and 5th floor, are in the CHC junior senior process. So any other junior or senior CHC student will be able to form a group and pick into those north spaces. The other North apartment spaces, to say North, all the rest of North D and then ABC, those will be available in the junior senior general process. And so if you're looking at something up on one of those other floors, yes, you would need to form that roommate group in the general process to select those options.
Okay, that sounds great.
Great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Aisha?
Hi, so this kind of relates to the earlier question about co-ed rooms, but not really. So if I wanted to pick a typical honors apartment with 4 singles, but me and 2 of the members of my roommate group are women, and the last member was assigned male at birth, but is non-binary, would we be able to do that?
It depends on a number of factors there. And honestly, Aisha, the answer is maybe, but it's actually a very detailed question. And I would want to ask you some questions that I don't really want to ask you in the chat. And so I would maybe suggest that you get in touch with our office directly, because there's a number of factors specifically related to that student who's non-binary that we might have some, that I would need to get some clarification on before I could really accurately answer that question.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, sorry, Aisha, I clicked that button again. Uni?
Yeah, hi. So this is more of a general housing question. So like, let me know if I should ask that at a different time. But so there's a lot of emphasis on like sophomores having priority over suites, and then juniors and seniors having priority over apartments. Outside of CHCRC, what would you say, like, do sophomores still have a good chance of getting like a typical traditional double in other residence areas?
Well, I'll go back to what I said at the beginning. Any student that is a sophomore, in the standard sophomore process, the general process, there will be enough spaces for every student to be able to select something. The junior senior process, that won't be the case, but in the sophomore process, there will be enough shared rooms for the students to be able to select something.
Okay. So for example, if me and my roommate or whoever, my roommate group, if we want to do like a double in central, even though we are sophomores and would have priority over like CHCRC suites, we can still select, or we would still have the opportunity to select like a traditional double somewhere else.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. We want to you'll get both appointments, and those processes actually run at the same time. I mentioned this earlier to somebody else, but your CHC appointment's probably going to start first.
Right.
But when that other appointment starts, if there's an open double room in central and that's really where you want to live, absolutely, you can select that.
Okay. Also, sorry, I know that this question about like forming a roommate group or like different grades is kind of like complicated, but I'm confused as to why. So I understand that freshmen and sophomores have different appointment times, and then juniors and seniors have different appointment times. If, for example, a sophomore and a junior, or like a rising sophomore and a rising junior wanted to room together, would it not be possible for example, if they're trying to get like a double somewhere, the sophomore having priority and then the group being able to select like a double in central or something like that?
Well, the main piece is really that you have to have the same appointment to form a roommate group.
Does appointment, like, is that like the freshman sophomore appointment and then the
exactly right? Appointment? Yeah. So those are 2 separate appointments. Juniors and seniors are going to see a different set of spaces than sophomores. Since they're different appointments, you can't form a roommate group over them. You have to, or you can only form a roommate group with other people who have the same appointments as you.
I see.
Yeah.
But rising sophomores can't make roommate groups with incoming freshmen, right?
Correct. Incoming students are generally assigned to first year residence halls. And the really, I mean, thinking about this from a rationale, from the kind of university's perspective, realistically, every freshman, every incoming new freshman that is living in a multi-year residence hall is a space that we can't offer to a sophomore, junior, or senior. Whereas we have a fairly significant number of spaces for first year students. I understand that there's always a situation where, you know, two students, I've been living on campus for a year, my best friend is coming in now, and we'd really like to live together. There are going to be ways for students to move themselves around once we open the residence halls, but at least up until we open, up until we've actually completed assignments and opened our residence halls, really us assigning first year students into those first year only halls and the ways that we're needing to do the assignments this year is giving us the best ability to assign as many students as possible on campus.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So essentially like a intergrade group would really only work with a junior and senior.
That's right. Okay. Or at the ends of these processes. I don't expect that there's going to be a lot of open double rooms available at the end, but when everything is added to the same process, if there's an open double room, you can form a roommate group with a senior. You can absolutely select into that open double room as long as it's there.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Amy.
So I was just wondering, in regards to picking a group leader, should it be someone with the best priority number, or should it just be like someone who's the most responsible, I would say?
There's the one. I like that one, Amy. Go with the responsible person, because realistically, whoever the group leader is, when that group gets formed, they just take on the earliest appointment time for the group. So as long as you're a part of that group, say you and I have appointment times, my appointment starts today at 5 o'clock, your appointment starts 2 days from now at 3 p.m., but you've watched our video tutorials, you've come to this session, you talk to me, and I'm not, reliable. You don't want me to be the group leader. You want to be the person that's responsible for that. And so the person who is the most responsible, the person who understands the process, the person who is available at that time should be the group leader.
Okay, thank you so much for clarifying.
You're welcome. Of course, Amy. Haley?
Hi, I think this has probably already been answered based on like what I've been hearing.
Okay.
But we have somebody that is currently in our roommate group who we want to room with next year. We're going to be juniors. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't have as many semesters on campus because he went abroad for a semester. Mm-hmm. So does that change how his priority works and even how his standing as a student works?
Not necessarily, no. Essentially, the way that I would frame it is that, so if that student is a junior and all of you all are juniors, you can form a roommate group with them. Really, the only priority, the only appointment that really matters when you're within a roommate group is whoever has the earliest appointment time. And so likely your friend isn't going to have the earliest appointment time, but somebody else is going to have that earlier appointment time. And because of that, if you're all part of a roommate group, you'll be able to select whatever that earliest appointment time is. Does that kind of clarify the question?
I was guessing more like, does it affect his standing as like a sophomore or a junior, or does it go purely by academic standing?
For that piece, what determines which processes that you're going to be eligible for, we look at your academics first. And so juniors and seniors will get that junior-senior process. Freshmen and sophomores will get the sophomore process, essentially. As long as you're all within the same process, and again, that's based on your academics, yes, you should be able to form a roommate group.
Okay. And then I also had a question for co-ed groups. I think you've touched upon this a little bit earlier, but when it comes to having an apartment with like a bunch of singles, does it necessarily have to be like 2 girls, 2 boys, or can it be like a disproportionate amount, like number, like?
Yes. So any of the spaces that are designated as co-ed, say if there's your example, it's of one of the 4 single room apartments that's designated as co-ed. What that means is that it could be 3 female identifying students, 1 male identifying student, 3 male identifying students, 1 female, 2 and 2. It doesn't matter. It's just the students in the room. So, and in a single room, it doesn't really matter. The students that are sharing a room have to be the same gender, but the students sharing the space do not, if that makes sense.
That does clear things up. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Justin, it looks like we have one more question, and I just wanted to do a time check. It's 6:56, and we'd like to have a hard stop at 7 p.m.
Perfect. I was literally about to say the very same thing, so I appreciate you. Arav?
Yeah, hi. So I just had a couple questions just like about logistics. So the first one is like, is our priority number calculated against everybody, or is it calculated just against other people in our grade?
Great question. So priority is really two numbers. And so the first number is just how many semesters you've actually lived on campus. It is academics agnostic. There's nothing there that is looking at your academic standing. We're literally just looking at how many semesters have you lived on campus. And then however many semesters you've lived on campus, that is where that priority order comes in. That's the tiebreaker for students that have lived on campus. So that means we're going to have juniors, sophomores, seniors, potentially, who have lived on campus for 2 semesters. And depending on what processes they're eligible for, will kind of determine where they fall within each of those processes using that same priority number. Does that make sense?
Okay, so our priority number is compared against other people who've lived on campus the same amount of semesters?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
And also for folks that are within an appointment. So step 1 for us is who's eligible for each appointment, for each process. Then we look at priority to determine the order of those students that are eligible for the process.
Okay. Okay. And then if we have like a personal question, should we reach out to you guys like ResLife or
Absolutely.
CHC? Okay.
Depending on what your question is, if you're asking questions about process, how do I use online room selection? How do I pick housing? I've got this X, Y, or Z question about housing. That's us. Come talk to us. If it's specifically related to your CHC status, if it's something related to being a member of the Honors College, that's when you want to talk to the folks in the Honors College.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So I know that I was not able to answer every single question that was asked in the chat. I know it looks like some folks were trying to kind of answer some questions as well. I am going to take the questions, and I'm going to make sure that anything that was asked in the chat, I at least get some answers put together, and I will make sure to send that to Dr. Russell and Ashley so that you all have that information. It might not get to you all till like say tomorrow, but I'll try to get it up as soon as I can. And that way, wherever this video is going to be saved, because this was recorded, we can put the answers to those questions there as well.
Thank you, Justin, and thank you to all of our participants tonight. You'll be receiving a video link with this recording, and we will also be posting this to our website. So stay tuned and have a good night, everyone.